Hey, today we're talking about the data analytics career path. This is perfect if you're somebody that's kind of on the fence about getting into the industry. Maybe you're picking a major in college and you're not sure where to start, or it's something that you just kind of want to get into and start building your career. We're going to talk about three main things in this video. The first one is going to be why should you choose data analytics? Why is it a good career to potentially get into? What is the growth? Uh, what does the growth curve look like as you start to join? Is there potential growth within the industry? Then I want to map out, okay, what would your career look like if you spent 1 year, 5 years, 15 years in the industry, and how much would you potentially get paid? And kind of what do you need to know to be good at that job? And then I want to finalize it with where can you get started if this is something that you actually want to dive into more and get educated on. Okay, so why should you listen to me? So, my name's Tom Hunter. I spent 15 years in the industry working for one of the big four consulting companies. I traveled the US solving some of the hardest data analytics and software related problems. I helped build and run a $5 million agency independently on my own. I've also trained over 6,000 in person consultants for how to use data analytics on their day to day jobs. So, I've been in this industry for a long time. I've known where a whole bunch of different people have progressed up. I've moved up this chain, and I'm happy to kind of show you a little bit about it today. So, why should you pick data analytics as a career? It's an incredibly lucrative career path, and there's tons of upward mobility. I've seen a lot of people start out with not a ton of technical skills, start to teach and educate themselves over the course of trainings and certifications, and get really, really good and move all the way up to really high paying $300,000 jobs just by developing and building lots of different projects over time. I also think that this is an incredible job if you're interested in looking for something that's flexible. Your skills help determine what you're going to be able to do, but there's lots of work from home opportunities here because really what you're doing, it's all in the tech space. And if you can access a computer and the internet, then you're going to be able to log into your clients' databases. You're going to be able to transform work independently and remotely. So it's very easy and it's very flexible type of work. So you don't necessarily need to travel around the country or be in the office every single day to do a good job at this. And then the other thing, there's tons of job demand here. The industry is growing at close to 34%, and we're going to take a look at some of those slides about where, the World Forum is actually predicting where growth is going to go. But this industry overall has a massive amount of opportunities for people to grow within it. And the reason is because every single day, companies are logging tons and tons of data for what their customers, what their companies are doing internally. And they're trying to understand, how do I get a better real time feel of what's actually happening within my company? How do I build up better systems in order to get more insights about what's happening on a day to day basis? So the job demand here is huge, specifically because companies are looking for people that are going to help them solve a really difficult problem in their organization that they just can't do with Excel. All right, so I found this really interesting report from the World Economic Forum, and it looked at what are the fastest growing jobs by 2030. And they just published this data. It came out in 2025. And what was surprising to me was the 11th fastest growing job that they predicted was data analysts and data scientists. But as I started to look at this report and read it a little bit more, there were all these other jobs that popped up that are completely related in this field. And if you get into data analytics, there's a complete possibility that you could jump to one of these different career paths. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. And really kind of enjoy the fruits of how much this industry has grown and how much of a demand there is. So, for example, big data specialists, AI and machine learning specialists, data warehousing specialists, data scientists, and data analysts, they're all grouped together and they all use the same exact skill set. So, as you start to build out and develop your skills in data analytics, if you want to specialize in something like big data, or you want to specialize in something like machine learning, or you wanted to specialize in building out data warehouses, there's all these different pockets of growth where you can go to get a really, really good job. So it isn't just the 11th fastest growing job, it's actually much higher because I think all of these different jobs are basically the same thing, all within a reasonable amount of skill level amongst each other. So this is an incredibly fast growing industry if this is something you want to jump into. Second thing, the same report also published what are the 10 fastest growing skills by 2030. And I think this makes a lot more sense. AI and big data were ranked as number one. But again, right, analytical thinking, curiosity and lifelong learning, resilience and flexibility, creative thinking, and technology literacy, these are all critical skills that all play within the same bounds. If you're going to go learn data analytics, you're going to go learn some of these skills as well too. And right, this skill set that you're going to build out and develop is incredibly impactful for the rest of your career, because when you're working with data sets, for example, not only do you need to know how to access the database and pull the data down and combine it and do joins and manipulate it and get it into something that's going to answer a question, but you also have to think creatively about how do you actually make those jumps to get all of that data to talk to each other and then build a story that is going to educate people. Being curious and being a lifelong learner, one of the other things listed here as well too, our industry changes incredibly rapidly because there's constantly new tools that are coming in, right? They all kind of use the same types of skills like SQL and Python, but there are new databases that make things faster, or they connect data in a way that we've never been able to see before. And it kind of builds and restructures the industry. So every couple of years, if you're building and developing your skills, you want to stay ahead of the curve so that you're going to be able to be some of the best and get some of the best jobs. All right. So I think this is probably the most important slide. So if you are interested in getting into data analytics, I wanted to build out a little bit of a view for what your career could look like at the 1 year mark, at the 5 year mark, at the 10 year to 15-year mark. So starting out on the left-hand side, I think everybody has to start at some kind of role. They've never done data analytics before, where you might be working as a junior data analyst. You may not necessarily have a lot of skills. You're trying to build out your SQL, your Excel, your Python, your data visualization skills. And I think that getting some of these certifications, if you've never been in the industry before, could easily qualify you for that job. That job pays about $50,000 to $70,000. It's not incredible, but it's a really good starting point. As you build and develop those skills, what you're trying to gear yourself to is become a data analyst. And this is going to make you almost a little bit of a generalist, because you're going to be looking at all of these different paths that you could potentially take in the future. I think students that come out of business school with a data analytics degree probably qualify for this type of job. And they're trying to seek to develop their skills in order to jump to the next level that I've kind of listed out. I think that there are about 4 different career tracks in the business world, at least, that you could try to grow into to help develop in the future. So number one, if you start out as a data analyst and you want to go into data science, that's a very technical role. It's filled with a lot of people that have advanced education degrees, a lot of technical math and programming skills that are required to be good in that role, but it's an incredibly lucrative path. You could develop into a data scientist that's getting paid, $100,000 to $200,000, because what you're doing in businesses is you're taking all of this complicated information and packaging it up into patterns that the business is going to be able to use and reuse as they start interacting with different customers and products and inventory and different statistical and programming applications on the day-to-day job. When you look forward into the 5 to 10 year, going down the rest of this career track, there's a very clear growth curve that you can grow into. Once you become a data scientist, you can become a senior data scientist, and then you're going to be more technical in your capabilities, and you're going to be able to teach junior people underneath of you. When you're a manager, you might be running a team of people underneath of you, a team of data scientists that are solving really complicated problems. When you're a director, you might be running teams of people underneath of that role as well too. I've easily seen people earn more than $300,000 in this role, especially if you go into a large technology company or a big consulting company. All right, I want to talk about the consulting path here. So if you get so good at data analytics that a company that might not necessarily be able to afford a full-time data analyst, you could potentially go into that company and almost act in a temporary role, or build out really complicated data analytics that they themselves are not able to do. This role is incredibly lucrative as well too, because as you start to move up, what you're answering here is more the business questions about how do you enable the business to be more successful? How do you help build and grow your peers and the consultants underneath of you? As you grow, similar to our data scientist role, you can get up to a director where there's going to be multiple teams of people underneath of you that you're helping enable and grow in this role. To be good at this, you need to have really competent business skills. You need to be able to understand the data, lots and lots of different tools, because you're going to be interacting with tons of different companies and tons of different technologies. So you have to get really good at it. But it's an incredibly lucrative path. And I've seen a lot of people go past just that data analytics director role where they become a partner in the firm, or they become someone that owns an interest in the entire company. And basically what you're doing is you're taking your very skilled, very technical consultants and you're going out to your customers and you're helping lend them out at a specific rate. In the business analytics role, what your job is going to look like is a little bit less technical. A lot of these folks work for companies, but companies need people that are going to help them break down that data and solve really complicated problems. You are going to become an expert in the systems just for the company that you're solving for and just for the technology that your company uses on a day-to-day basis. I don't think that there's as much room to grow up inside of a company to become, there isn't a chief data analyst type of role within a large company, but you're going to become an expert in the systems to that specific company, and that means a lot to them. This is an incredible job. There's tons of opportunities here. I think every business needs a role that's going to use data analytics as they start to grow. So there's tons and tons of jobs here if this is something that you want to get into. And then finally, I have a data engineer role as our last path. And this path, I would like to think about it as a little bit of a blend of traditional IT with data analyst skills as well too. You're not building out statistical models. You're not building out the capabilities in order to, bucket large groups of customers together. What you're doing is you're trying to help the business manage all of this data that's coming into them at any given time. So they might have systems like Salesforce.com that people are interacting with for their sales. They're going to have IT systems that are internally. They're going to have business systems like ERP systems or SAP, where they have all of this internal knowledge that's constantly getting built up every single day as they're interacting with their customers and they're getting new orders and inventory. And as a data engineer, it's going to be your job to make connections into all of those systems and put them into one place where a data analyst is going to be able to access it, where a data scientist is going to be able to do something with it, and clean that data up and make that data really high quality. So a data engineer is a little bit more of a blend of, technical traditional IT plus the data analytics skill set. All right, we're in the middle of the video. I want to hit the pause button here for just a second. If you like this content, please subscribe. I'm also building out a free school community. So if you need something that's more closer to curated, expert-led trainings, something that's going to focus on meeting different, industry professionals, you want to hang out and spend an hour with me every single week talking about data analytics and talking through advanced business use cases, please go there. I think we have an incredible community that's starting to get built, and I'd love to see you in person. All right, so back to the career path here. What I wanted to do was kind of put together in one chart a graph of what the entire industry kind of looks like from a technical skills level. If you think about this curve, and underneath of this curve is the entire industry of everybody that plays in the data analytics space, where do all those level of skills and technical skills kind of line up? I think a lot of people focus on this digital literacy. They understand spreadsheets, they understand data entry, they understand a little bit about how these complicated ERP or enterprise tools work, and they understand how data works in general, but they might just be specialists for entering data into these systems or extracting a little bit of that data and manipulating that out on themselves. So there's tons of people that kind of sit at the lower end of the technical skill set of data analytics. When you start getting into the side of building out visualization tools and dashboards, working with low code tools, working with databases, these things are much more complicated for people to do. And I think the more technical that you can get in your skill set and the more you can develop the skills on the right-hand side of this screen, the better you're going to be in your career and also the better paid you're going to be, because those technical skills are very difficult to obtain. But once you have them for a lifetime. then you just have to stay on top of them and start building and understanding um, your portfolio of different use cases for how to tackle these things. In my experience, I've seen a lot of basic data analysts who got really good with low code and visualization tools do really good in their career because they're able to answer business questions really well. They're able to manipulate the data incredibly usefully. And when they're ready to actually bring that up to a large IT organization, they're actually able to make the transition to become more technical in their careers. Roles like, working with automations and databases and building out pipelines and programming, these are the type of roles that you would see a data engineer do, where they're building out the infrastructure, they're building out lots of warehouses. And then finally, on the far right hand side of this, once we start talking about machine learning experts and we start talking about data scientists, there aren't a ton of people that qualify for that role who are experts at it because they need to be, advanced graduates. They tend to have advanced math degrees. A lot of people that go that path don't necessarily choose going into the business world to do those types of roles or do that type of research. But it is incredibly lucrative for the people that do it. If you think about large companies like Facebook, they have billions and billions of users, and every day they're trying to figure out how do they fine tune their models to try to get better access for advertisements and penetrations into their users at the end of the day. Also, if you were wondering on our career path, right, where do I kind of get my salary expectations? Well, I'm looking at a lot of different industry level curves in the US, and I looked at a lot of data on Glassdoor as well too. There's obviously a range to these skills, right? In different areas and different levels of experience are going to qualify you for different types of careers. But I just kind of wanted to showcase that I'm not making these numbers up. These are real, incredibly lucrative jobs that you can get into that, you're not necessarily going to learn everything at business school. You're going to need to combine this with a little bit of non-technical education training where you're picking up extra, courses and learning things online. This type of technical knowledge moves faster than a university course. So it's very difficult to, walk into a college and expect to know everything at the end of the day. So I would say stay on top of it. There's incredible careers that you can pick up out here. Large technology companies, I highlighted, just one that I saw from Airbnb where they're paying, for data analysts, they're paying close to $250,000. So if you can get good enough that you can work for some of these really big companies, I would say knock them dead and try to go for it. There's a lot of opportunity here. And then finally, I kind of wanted to talk about what is it that hiring managers are looking for at the end of the day. So if you're the type of person that, you can take data that's in a business and you're focused on making an impact with it, not just a dashboard, you're going to do really well because it doesn't matter what problem a company is going to be able to throw at you. You're going to be able to find the path in order to make that data useful for someone else. If you're obsessive about looking at data quality and looking at accuracy and trying to figure out how do you take that output you have at the end of the day and do something with it, you're going to be really successful in this career as well too. If you're the type of person that, you answer that question at the end of the day and you want to go 3 levels deeper and you keep asking why and you keep wanting to push to the next level, you're going to be really successful because we need people that are going to be able to dig into all of this massive amount of data and technology and start to figure out real answers at the end of the day. And then finally, you want to stay ahead of your tools, right? This industry changes incredibly fast. There are new tools that are coming in every day. But if you learn some basic programming languages, you understand some of the major tools that are at play, you're going to be okay in your career and you're going to be able to move forward. You just got to stay on top of what's coming in. All right, so if you're trying to join the space in 2025 or 2026 or even forward, I found this incredible data chart. They looked at 1.5 million jobs for junior and senior level data analysts roles in the United States, and they ranked how many times did specific skills pop up in that application. SQL, Python, understanding AWS or Amazon Warehouse Services, Spark, Azure, Tableau, R, JavaScript, Snowflake, Databricks is in there as well too. These are all critical skills that companies are looking for you to be able to understand to help fit into these roles. And I think if you get really good at SQL, Python, building out some dashboards. You understand spreadsheets, you know how to work with spreadsheets. You can maybe pick up some of these advanced tools like Databricks, where you're using SQL and Python and dashboards all together, and you can build apps inside of them. You're going to be really successful in your career. And this is a great starting point for people that are trying to figure out where they want to get started and how they want to start, getting into the industry. I would start with those tools and get really good at them first. And then finally, one thing I didn't mention was the impact that AI is having. When you start looking at all the new job applications that are hitting the market, lots of employers are looking for somebody to help teach them how to use AI. And the traditional IT roles are starting to stall out, which you can kind of see here in red. These are non-IT AI job postings that are being published. There's a huge increase for being able to use AI on the job. And I think taking a lot of these programming languages paired with AI, you're going to be able to figure out how to pass data through a lot of these LLM models and help make some analysis and outputs within your workflows and within the code that you start to develop. So there's tons of opportunity here for you too, where if you want to pair what we already talked about with AI, you're going to be an incredibly marketable candidate when you're ready to go out into the marketplace. All right, so that's all I have for today. If you want to learn more how to do this AI stuff, look, please subscribe, join our channel here, but also look at the AI Analyst roadmap on School. This is a free community. It's all about building out curated training. It's difficult for me to get all the resources and technology and data sets and workflows for you to be able to work with just here on YouTube. But we have a completely curated course on our School community, and you're going to be able to meet me and talk to me for an hour where we can talk about anything that you want, including use cases. You can meet other business professionals in the space and just get started in your career. So I'd love to see you over there, and hopefully I can see you soon. Bye.